Hello and welcome to TheConversation.cc. My name is Peter Melton. I'm joined by a bunch of wonderful people that you'll get to know in the upcoming hours of delightful, heartfelt, deep, passionate conversation. And this is an after party of sorts as part of our 24-hour Fridays that we do called the Collective Intelligence Block Party. This is an after party from Straight Talk, which is an amazing show on the Love Coach Academy channel, if you will, with Scott Trish. And his guests tonight included Antoinette and Alexandra, who are both passionate supporters of the Wall of Moms and many other projects. So welcome, ladies. Please give us a quick update of what you've been up to on the Straight Talk show and guide us into this next chapter together. You're beautiful. Antoinette, you're beautiful.
Beautiful.
We made that up yesterday. That's a good one.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Peter, so much. So you guys, I loved last week what we done. So you guys are actually the first people out of our press release to announce that we are no longer Wall of Moms, but we are actually Wall of Moms International. WAMI.
Ooh, WAMI.
We are WAMI. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. So that's who we are right now. Everything in the past is in the past. We're not concerned about that. We're only concerned about moving forward in the support of Black Lives Matter, in the support of Black lives and BIPOC, because we support them as well too. Any oppressed people, like he said, injustice anywhere. We are for social justice everywhere across the planet. That's where we're moving. That's our direction. And that's why I have Alexandra and Uganda, because she's in Oklahoma. She's like couple hours behind, so she couldn't make it, but you'll definitely see her. And Dr. Quinlan, who was dropping some comments earlier, she's also part of our team. She's one of the Black women that had led our protests in Lake Elsinore. She's an amazing woman. And we told them, they're like, if you're gonna sit there and start some rioting, some looting, destruction, I will take you out. I said, Pato will take you out. We're gonna take you out ourselves because we live here. We don't need any outside forces coming in and destroying where we live, because there's only few Black people that actually live here. We're only 3% here. And I don't need all that attention coming onto us and saying we did this and then they come after us. So we're starting in a new direction. Alexandra's on our team, and I see Liz too, because we are transparent in everything that we do. My face is out there. I put my neck on the line. I put her neck on the line. I asked all these women to stand with me and say, I need you to stand up with me. Put your faces out there. Let everybody know who you are and what we're about. So Liz Martin, she's hiding, I guess, but she's also part of our, she's part of our team. She's our secretary. She's a minority in our organization, but she has become a white accomplice, not an ally, an accomplice. She is a ride or die homie, We're doing everything together. So she's in full support of everything that we do and stuff. So thank you.
Should I say hello?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. And then Liz, if you'll go after
her. My name is Alexandra Loves. I'm here in Portland. I got to say hi to some of you right before we kind of started. And I am a spiritual guide and worker. And I also have a leg of my work that is anti-racism work from a spiritual perspective. And I am a Black mentor for white people who are ready. As a matter of fact, if you go to my website, alexandraloves.com, you will see like a whole page that's a letter that's addressing white people and this journey that they're on. And so I work with people in that way. That's one of the ways I work with people. And, part of my backstory is that I didn't grow up in this country. I didn't grow up with identity Black or African American. I moved here to go to boarding school. I come from a lot of privilege. My parents came from no privilege. And then they created a lot of privilege. It's a unique story. And race identity was imposed on me. And I went through about, over a decade of identity crisis. And I lived in North Andover, I lived in Boulder, Colorado, and I lived in Portland, Oregon, the United States. Very they all are in the top 10 of whitest cities in the United States of America. And so I started noticing with my, you know, I went through this journey of identity crisis, and I started noticing that with my clients. I work with women to help them create the life they want by being who they are spiritually, right? And I started noticing in the last few years that identity kept coming up. Who am I? What is my legacy? What am I creating? How do I unplug from the system? And identity kept coming up. Things, and then people started bringing this language: white supremacism, racism, anti-racism, allyship, accomplish, all of this stuff. I started noticing it without me ever bringing it up. And then, of course, so we're all witnessing the wave of what's happening right now, as we all start to look at anti-racism and racism in this country, and actually all over the world. And so this is sort of the basis for a lot of my work. And also I like to think on a global level, not just because I grew up and traveled the world, but also through my group Africa Week 2020, which Antoinette was mentioning before. We do big family reunions to unite Africa and all of her diaspora. We talk about activism and cooking and community building and finding solutions. And what we found in these world networks, which many of you are part of world networks, it sounds like, we find out that even when we're dealing with a local issue or trying to build something locally, that over there, all on the other side of the world, somebody has a solution. They have the ideas that you need. And really, the problems that we have here are manifesting in different ways in other places. And so it's interesting that in this time of destruction and birth, which is crowning, right? This is Corona time, it's crowning, that that we, as we're being forced to stay at home, it makes us all of a sudden have this awareness of the world in ways we never did before, because we're all coming to these online spaces where we can see each other and connect with each other and pay attention to each other and get involved with each other's initiatives, right? So that's sort of, so you can kind of get my vibe and know a little bit more about me. And the last thing I want to share before I pass the mic is that right now in my tradition, I follow, I do ancestry work. I'm an oracle. I do ancestry work through African indigenous spirituality. That's why I'm initiated to. It's my bloodline. It's who I am. And this is the new year. This is I think the second day of our new year. And the first thing that we do in the new year, and this has a lot to do with Antoinette's song and this other lovely woman's song, was it Heather's song from before. And that is the first thing, this part in the new year, when you start, it's about reconciling with those that you have had beef with, basically. And that also has to do with what's in here, reconciling with a version of you that maybe you didn't like or had problems with or had shame about or whatever. That's what you do in the first part of this new year. Is happening right now. And also asking forgiveness from the mother. Isn't that beautiful? That's the first thing, is reconciling with what's holding you back, what's blocking you, and also with forgiveness from the mother, reconnecting with the mother. And then there's all this, like, you know, ocean stuff and dolphin stuff that's going on too. But I feel like this is when George Floyd was lynched. And I want to encourage everybody to say what it actually was when you talk about it. Say what it was, not when that thing that happened. When he was lynched, say it so people don't forget it, right? He called out mama. Mama is now plastered everywhere in the world. His spirit did not go in vain. It's terrible what happened, obviously, right? It's absurd and terrifying. But that call that went out, mama, that's now plastered all over the walls and people, it's etched in people's brains. And now we're in this time of reconnecting with the Divine Mother, and that we're going back to our roots and trying to find security within who we are as we travel through this shadow, right? In this crowning. I find it very comforting, actually, that this kind of synchronicity is happening right now, and that so many people are waking up and saying, yes, I'm answering this call. Okay, that's all I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This is beautiful. Liz, would you like to share a little bit? And then I think you have some more WAMI folks that are on the call. Would love to hear from more of your teammates there, guys. So keep telling us what's going on.
Hi, my name is Liz. I just kind of got roped in for the ride, but I'm here. I thought I knew a lot, but it turns out I'm very uneducated, but I'm here for the ride. I'm here, I'm learning. I'm so grateful to be a part of this group, and I'm so grateful to these women that have opened themselves up and allow there to be a two-way dialogue. That to me has been completely invaluable. I'm local in Portland, and I got involved when everything came together, and I went down and joined the wall and protested and was tear gassed multiple times and shot out with pepper balls and rubber bullets, and it was terrifying, but it lit something inside of me that realized that I couldn't continue living my sheltered little suburban life, that I needed to actually get involved, and not just for a moment, but forever. So here I am. I'm in the background. I help a lot with the organization on the back end with paperwork and meetings and all the not so fun stuff, but it's part of my professional background, I guess. Now I stay at home with 3 littles, but I'm happy to be here. That's all I got. I don't know. I don't. I'll let
She's
the
being really,
experts speak.
she's being really, really shy and stuff. I mean, you know, when we started this transition with the team, we've been up at 5 or 6 or 7, 8 or 9 in the morning, and we've been going to sleep at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, with different members of our team, that we need to fix this, we need to clear this, we need to get everything straight, and we need to get our mission, we need to set up our organization, we need to set up our pages, we need to be ready like Freddie. That's my motto, ready like Freddie. So you guys are the first ones to sit there and see this whole transformation and change this evening, tonight. You know, this has all just happened this evening, but, you know, through the work behind the scenes of this past time. So she's been in there. She's answered every call, every text. I can ramble on. I'm like, write this down, you know, put this in a folder, put all the questions, all the people who want to support, everybody who wants to help, put them in a folder. Put in a folder of receipts, put this in a folder of lawyers, put this in a folder of press, put all these things so that way, you know, the rest of us who are doing the frontline work can find this, you know, get us organized, you know, and help. And I call her and Quinlan, Dr. Quinlan Strong, and Nichelle Monroe, who's also part of our team. I call them the GP crew. They are the grammar police. And they help me, you know, it's like, help me formulate these words so that way I can talk to the rest of the world in a way that's acceptable for everyone, because we want to make this all inclusive. We are Black leadership, but we need Black, brown, white people and animals, everybody to be in this with us together. I will not refuse any help from anybody. Whatever you can offer, we will take it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now Shannon has told me she's part of the WAMI too. Shannon, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, you know, hi guys. I've been in the groups, and just everything shifted when, anyway, Shannon, hi, everything, I was in Wall of Moms, and oh my gosh, have just been like the live streams every night, and just, you know, just trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, what needs to be said, how to say it, all of these things. And it just seemed like this huge box that I just felt like it was just almost an impossible hurdle. And then when you guys came on, when Antoinette and you, Alexandra, and the energy shifted and the conversation started, I knew Wall of Moms, there was something magical in what happened when the wall lined up, you know. And then what's happening now with Wall of Moms International, it just feels like it's taking it where I guess I can't say I knew it could go, but something in me knew it could go. And it's really been inspiring and beautiful. And I feel like like you said, Liz, I just never knew how little I didn't know. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm on a lot, I'm watching, I'm reading, I'm trying to have the conversations, and then I do want to jump into the group, and then I want to be on the ground, but I want to be there in a way that's effective, and I want to learn how to do that from you, with you. So
thank you, Shannon. This is making me, I'm not an emotional person. I'm not the crybaby in the group. I'm not the emotional one. Trust me, I'm numb, from everything I've gone through. But thank you so much, because that's the first statement that we've heard from the people in WAMI now, so this is very supportive. So by hearing this, because we were so nervous, we said at 7:30, we're changing everything. Everything is happening at once. All of our ducks in a row were happening at once. We don't know how people are actually going to react. If they're going to be upset with us, or if they're going to be mad with us, if they're going to just run away, if they're just going to leave, they're going to take off, if they're going to continue attacking us, because people were attacking us. Black and white people were attacking us. And it's like, I had to pray and meditate every single night. I come from a spiritual background. It's like, I need to seek God's advice. I need to seek the mother within. And I turned off my TV. And that's something I never do, because I'm distracted by a lot of different things. My husband, he's always about prayer, meditation. He's like, seek the advice, look within, and see where that leads you. And it's like, should I do this? Is this worth doing? Am I getting myself into a lot of trouble? Am I fighting an uphill battle? What are we actually doing? And the voice that I got was, create it and they will come. Do this and they will come. And people who align with your views and your ideals, they'll come and they'll back you up and they'll support you every way possible. So I listened to that foremost, and then I listened to all my teammates and my members the next. And so you were there from before, and I told everybody, I will always be transparent. That's why I told Peter, you can record this. Anything that I say, I stand by my word. I will be transparent with everyone regarding everything, and I will always do this with my team. And I always tell the girls, I won't make any moves without you. I'll check with you first. I will seek your advice from my big sisters, from my elders, from my husband, everybody. And I'm always asking their opinions before I make any steps or make any statements or how we're going to move forward. And that we're always in alignment and stuff. So thank you so much for being our first #1 top fan supporter for WAMI. We are WAMI.
yeah. Thank you. I do want to say, you and I had a little interchange, just in a gratitude moment where the Divine Mother came up, and that's what shifted when you came in, and that's what's also important to me. And I thought, of course, that's where Divine Mother is going to show up, is this wall of moms, and so just bringing that in means a lot to me as well. So thank you for it. It feels like every move you make takes us all so much further and deeper, and I feel like there's a lot's gonna come. So thank you.
I feel so too. We're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this together. I need everybody's hands. I need all hands on deck, and we're gonna do this together. And this includes men. So we have men in our team. We don't discriminate against sex, race, or religion. That's part of the wonderful thing about doing interfaith work, with Unity Earth and Charter for Compassion, United Religions Initiative, is that I just follow their role model. I follow their example. This is how we're doing this in other countries. We don't have to make major changes. We just have to set the example that we can all get along, like Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? And when they see that we can just get along despite our religious or racial differences, that we have one common goal, which is the golden rule, that we are all God's children, or however they want to phrase it. It's like, we'll be there for you and we'll support each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just see that Ximena had a question or a comment.
Hi, first of all, Alexandra, Antoinette, Shannon, Liz, all the new people, welcome. And I am so happy to have you here. And admit to your lines. I am Mexican. I am your new fan, so count on me. I will spread whatever you need in Mexico. I am here for you. I wanted to share an experience for you. And first of all, I wanted to say to Alexandra that it's not about you or us. It's about us, capital letters. It's humanity. It's not blacks or white. It's us, okay? And
I'm so sorry. Just let me know what you were specifically referring to. I'm not sure what you're reflecting back from. Sorry.
oh, because you said that if we were backing you up, if we agreed, and you thought that the majority here was kind of white, that's what I understood. So I wanted to say that this is us together as a humanity. This is not about just backing a movement. As Heather said, she was also treated bad by policemen. And through her eyes, she made this song because it's about violence in general, right?
Yeah. Do you mind if I start a dialogue with you about that comment?
Yes, of course.
I'm not totally, because how I'm receiving that comment in this moment is that you're correcting my sharing of my perspective. Is that what you're doing?
No, not at all. Let me finish. Okay. I had the fortune to be the interpreter of Lawrence Edward Carter. This was the best friend of Martin Luther King Jr. And he gave this very beautiful speech that hasn't left my mind. And I wanted you to know this. When he was telling that when Martin Luther King was killed, his best friend, he went to a church to meditate on what had happened. And he swore that he was not going to any other party that had to do with a white. And he was not talking again to a person that was white. That he was not going to allow his friend like died without justice. And he was thinking about this, and he thought that he came to this place of wisdom, of somehow divine wisdom, with the inspiration by being in church. And he said that he realized that he was doing this completely wrong, because it was not about dividing or talking about different races, but uniting humanity. And he said that the prejudices, the programming, the beliefs, the discrimination, racism, wrong beliefs, misconceptions. I write it down because it's like hard for me because it's not my native language. So these kind of imposed situations that come from the programming that families impose to their children are the things that are not uniting us, are the things that have to be taken into consideration. Because discrimination, he said, these are his words, discrimination is natural. I see you, Black, Afro-American, I see me white, okay? If you see me white, you see me white and I see you Afro-American. I don't mean to say that the word to be rude. I was just talking about the motto of the celebration we had, commemoration of the victims that we had on the other Saturday, okay? Sunday, sorry. And I believe that if we are going to give birth to a humanity, we have to just talk about us as a humanity.
Okay.
Because I respect you very much. I respect your movements, and
yes,
I tell you that I am really a fan, and I could help you out with whatever you need in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I am open to whatever you need to say to me. I just wanted to give my opinion.
What you're talking about is the goal. When I grew up, I'm in complete agreement with you, okay? When I grew up without the moniker of Black or African American, I came to this country and boom, it kept getting imposed on me. I went through a whole, like, almost 2 decades of moving through this. Why is this identity put on me, and why are structures created that way? And so what you're saying is an ideal, and it is, I think, the reality of how we universally are created to interact with each other. But it's important to remember that the very human experience that some people are going, that our systems that we live in, that the systems that we get programmed in, like you said, are us and them. So we have to remember that though the goal is all of us, right? That we still have to recognize those labels and those systems to deconstruct them so we can get to us together. And see, what you're saying is universal truth. It is us, right? But we have to take responsibility in knowing that and how we talk about it, because there's so many people who don't understand that, and our systems reject that. And so we have to take the responsibility when we're talking to people about this, that they might just now, whether they're black or white or red or green, they might just now be sort of unplugging from the system that creates that divide, and they're dealing with all of that rage and anger of trying to understand the shame, the guilt, whatever it is, and they can't jump from us and them and how they're witnessing it everywhere to it's just all of us together. Sometimes that's used as a spiritual bypass when people are talking about how they identify or how they identify other people, or how they are having to educate other people to get to where you're talking about.
I think also too, yeah, I want to chime in on this as well too, because I work in this field with, as far as interfaith goes, you know, everybody's already there. You know, when it comes to the evolutionary leaders, when it comes to the United Religions initiative, when it comes to the Parliament of World's Religion, everybody has already reached that point. We are all one. But the problem is, most of humanity doesn't even see us as all one yet. They want to get into, we're all one, but they also are throwing back at us that they're colorblind. You know, they want to say, I don't see color, you know, but we need you to see color. We need you to appreciate our blackness. We need people to appreciate the yellowness, the brownness, the whiteness. We need people to appreciate that and understand that diversity is beautiful. Unity is not uniformity. It's great to appreciate those things. To sit there and say, you don't see color, it means you don't see me. As far as the white lady who was brutalized by the police, why Black lives is so important is because when we can dismantle, because really right now, it's the Black Lives Matter movement that is dismantling the system of police brutality, which protects everybody, not just Black people, but everybody. Their lives matter too, you know, because I see it. You know, it's not like I just talk about my Black brother being killed. I'm like, look at what they're doing to these white people. Look at what they're doing to these Native American women. You know, look at you know, the Latinx, you know. I've been in Mexico many times. You're probably familiar with my husband, Pato Banton, who sings that song, Go Pato. You know, we've been in Mexico, we've been in Peru and Brazil and all these other places. And even though he's a celebrity and everybody knows who he is, but Black people within those countries still have a very hard time, you know, because you identify yourself as white. And most Latin people, because I've done the census many times here, most Latin American people identify as white. Not one of them will sit there and say they're a person of color or that they're actually Black, even though they're mixed. It's very, very mixed. We are all one. Those of us on a higher level understand that. But when we're dealing with basic humanity, we have to sit there and start right back at the bottom, educate them to get into that part of we're all one. Once we understand that we're all one, then we can move forward from there. But in the meantime, telling people who don't understand that we all are one will not understand this. And we have to deal with those people, not just the ones who are already uplifted and starting to see like the bigger picture, you know, but the ones who don't see any picture at all. You know, so out of respect, like when you are talking with Black people, just listen. You know, this is just my suggestion. It's not anybody else's suggestion or anything, but I just want to prevent you from getting any feet flat back, because Black people can clap back when people say things to them. You know, I just want to protect you. If you start saying some things, they might get upset or they might get offended and be like, listen to us first and then make your suggestions. Listen to what we're saying. Listen to all the voices of Black people and then make your suggestions on how we can go from there. Because I think a lot of people, why they feel so frustrated and so angry is because it's like, you're not listening. You're just jumping in and telling me what we should do. Like, we don't know what we should do, or we could be doing whatever. And then that feels like another form. And I see comments like that. They'll be like, that's another form of white supremacy. Here's a person who identifies as white telling us what we should do, how we should move forward, how we should feel, how we should react, how we should see the situation. It's like, why don't you sit back for a moment? And that's what I love about Liz. You know, she'll just sit back and be like, let me just listen and not interject and not insert first. And then when we get to that level and be like, okay, let me ask your thoughts on this there. But
it's why I stick to the grammar.
Grammar police. Yeah, but that, I just want to say that, you know, just in case moving forward, because here where it's a more safer environment and we're the safest Black people you're going to come across, me and Alexandra right now. When you start talking with other Black people and their opinions and their thoughts, there's going to be a whole rainstorm of opinions and ideas on the approach and how we're actually moving forward. But at the end of the day, whatever we're fighting for everybody, for Latino, for Indigenous, for Native, for whatever they want to call themselves. We're fighting for everybody, because then they'll see when all lives will matter, when Black lives matter. That's what's really going to happen, you know.
Great. I had a quick question, and then I'm not sure if Martin is here with us, but I think he had something to share as well. My quick question, I was just wondering, Alexandra, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I was born and raised there. My parents are Creole from New Orleans, which also has a really interesting background. And I lived there for so long that when my parents talked about the United States, or, you know, we'd visit once a year, but when they talked about the United States, or they talked about being Black or African American, it was like this foreign thing that never felt like it was my thing. It was like they're from a foreign country. And when still now, I've lived here now full time for about 12, 13 years. I still feel like a foreigner, even though I'm not. And when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, well, I'm from Saudi Arabia, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. Where are you, American? Yes, but I'm not. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
And one thing, since we're talking about this, and please excuse me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, because there's many different pronunciations of this, but one thing when you're thinking on a global level and you're looking at trying to get education of understanding of a Black experience around the world, look at the kafala system. This is the modern day, well, it's old, but it's still happening, slavery system in places like Saudi Arabia and Lebanon. When you're posting for Beirut, I need to insert this here. When you're posting for Beirut, remember that there's a whole population of people there that were also affected, just like the Lebanese, and they are Black, and they are slaves, and they are sex slaves. And they get sent home in body bags if they don't have enough money to pay for them. They slit their throats and they put them in body bags. There are bans in different countries in Africa of sending women to some of these Arabic countries. And so I grew up in a country where I didn't even know about the kafala system until I grew up. You know, I was a little older, but I did grow up hearing about maids and houseworkers spontaneously dying, falling down in people's front yard. They just died, you know? So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you all are delving into these, you know, learning about what's going on, know that this is like what we're here for. It's a global thing. It's everywhere. All human trafficking, it's happening everywhere. So I wanted to insert that because it's something I'm actually seeing a lot. It's just Beirut, but no one's talking about the Black lives in Beirut. Anyway, I grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And I'm like Alexandra too. As we was getting to know each other, I also grew up overseas. You know, my mother is Taiwanese. My father was stationed in Taiwan and Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So I lived overseas in Germany, in Okinawa, Japan, and in Taiwan, and then also came to the States and lived in Arkansas, in Texas, Missouri, Virginia, New York, California. So I've had to insert myself in all these different cultures and all these different backgrounds and make myself a chameleon. But even though like outright racism seems very prominent in this country, there's still the issues of Black lives in Asia, in South America, in Europe, in Australia. This is a global issue. And having diverse voices of Black voices from around the world, they will be able to chime in, you know, and they'll be able to sit there and you can hear what they're saying, like what it's like to be a Black person in Tasmania, Australia, you know, in Mexico, in Venezuela, in Europe, you know, in Switzerland. We have a lot of great connections, and it's good to sit there and hear their voices because nobody is hearing their voices. They think it's just that we're just dealing with the Ku Klux Klan, you know, and Nazis in Europe. It's a lot bigger, deeper than that. It's unconscious bias in each one of these countries. We may not have the same level of racial bias in other countries because they might not be so outright with it, but it's still there. Even in Africa, all the times that I've been to Africa, we see Africans who will adore whiteness, you know, and they'll see another Black person and they will treat us the same treatment in America because they feel like white is better. You know, so that's something we also have to work within our own community because that's how they see it.
You know, I want to add in right now too, is that what we're talking about is, you know, because we were recently just talking about how we are all one and how we want to, I think for those of you, if you're staying for this conversation, if you're able to stomach this conversation and hear what we have to say here, then I think the chances are is that you care about this subject. And I want to say is that you were born specifically at this time. You're a warrior, you're a teacher, you're a community builder. You're one of those or all three of those. You're born specifically to be here right now, right? You were made specifically for this time. And know that even if you're rattled right now or overwhelmed or whatever it is that you're feeling, that you're very capable of being part of the solution. You're very capable of taking that responsibility instead of saying that person over there is fixing it. Oh, thank God. You're capable of being the one to say, what can I do now? You're born for it, quite literally. I just wanted to say that. I hope that can be received by everyone.
I'm not sure who the moderator is here because Alexandra, this is our first time in here. So I'm not sure who's moderating, but if you guys have any questions, we're here. Oh, there you are, Peter. Okay. What's up, Peter?
Well, I'm just enjoying the conversation and also got to have a moment with my nephew who came to visit. And I know Martin had mentioned he'd be willing to share. And we'd love to hear from you, Martin.
Martin Flores.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Peru. Here in Peru is it is morning, early morning. It's 12:30. So my name is Martin. I just joined yesterday to this community. Heather, my friend from USA, she invited me to. Hello to everyone. She invited me to be a part of this to this group, and yeah, it is really interesting the topics that you were talking about. Even we're talking with I remember with Marco, and yeah, and the other ones we were talking at around I think 5:30 in the morning, yeah, until 5:30 in the morning, and yeah, even I didn't mind if I had to work, you know, early, but yeah. What else? Talking about that you were talking about the discrimination, segregation, depends how you call in which part. here in Peru even exists the discrimination too. But I think the solution for this is the education. Because when people, they don't get the correct education, so they're not going to have, or they're not going to divide, or they're not going to analyze, in this case, the theories, or I don't know, the hypotheses, or the ideas of other people. They're going to be like a sheep. And so that's why we need to give a good education to, especially to the kids. If not, they're going to grow up with the old thinking, that maybe I don't know, the Europeans, they established like the white people, they got the power, and that's the best sector, or no. But I think the education is the most important. Here in Peru, people that they come from the highlands, from the mountains, and they don't have, of course, a good education. They come here to the cities, to the big cities in Peru. With the time, they got a university degree, and of course, they got important positions in politics, and everything is changing right now. Of course, discrimination is just not the color of your skin. It can be the music, even your status, your economical status, even how you speak the language too. My English is not really good, for sure, but there are some people that they can discriminate just because I'm trying to speak English. But if you goes through the wall, of course you can understand like, okay, his first language is Spanish, so you can have many ideas maybe to not discriminate this person, and yeah.
Thank you, Martin. I want to address you personally. Martin, I want to address you personally because my husband and I have been to Peru many times.
That's nice.
In Lima.
In Lima,
yeah,
the capital.
Yeah, yes, but I wanted to go to, to Machu Picchu, and there's a city. So for those of you guys who don't know, who are actually tuning in, this is what I learned about Peru. So Pato Banton, we've done many interviews down there. We've done a lot of shows. Go Pato was like #1 in Peru. Go Pato, everybody tell Go Pato. Everybody knows that song all throughout Latin America, right? You know the song, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so every time we come down there, every time we do our music, because it's part of our ministry, we have to do something for the community, service for the community. And they took us to the barrios, where the poor people, and I see this is very interesting within Latin America. In America, all of the rich people live in the hills on the top. All the money people, the 1% people, they live up there, and the poor people live down there. But in Latin America, all the poor people live in the hills. It's really, really rough. And then you can't, it's rough. So we were doing something, music and kids and other stuff. And then we do our concert and our show. As I'm doing, so Peru has the most amazing food, by the way, most amazing food, ceviche and all that stuff. Anyway, the Black people, you don't see Black people in Lima. I learned a little bit about the history. They had that Japanese guy who was president, and he was very racist and he was very prejudiced. And he basically exterminated, you can tell them more about the history, but they forced all the Black people out of that city. There's millions of people who live there. There's Black people in Peru, but they are in another city. There's not even an airport to get to this city. You're gonna have to drive several hours to get to where the Black people are in Peru. They have a restaurant that they took me to. So this is the Afro-Peruvian. So this is Afro-Peruvian cuisine, and this is where you see Black Peruvians who work there. They're dressed up like, Aunt Jemima or the Afro-Peruvian style. And this is where you get that Afro-Peruvian culture and food in this one restaurant in the city of Lima. If you want to know about Black people in Peru, you have to go to where the Black people in Peru are, which is a city hours and hours and hours away from Lima. That's where they moved them all to. that's the history. And this happened, I'm not even sure, it wasn't even too long ago, but if you go there today, you will see that. That's something that, you know, they also have to face as well too, besides the European colonialism within Peru, but also the treatment of the Black people in Peru too, you know. So I would love that, you know, we keep our connections together, and let's address that, because we've been invited to go back to another spiritual convention back in Peru again, in Lima, you know, next year. So we're coming back. I love that place. I love that place, regardless.
For sure, you're welcome. If you wanted to come to Peru, for sure, you're welcome. And I can give you a hand. I studied tourism, and I know very well the important places, no? Especially the
Thank
important
you.
places. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, you said it is really strange, because we have, for sure, in Peru, we have African Peruvians, but you don't find African Peruvians, for example, in my city, in Arequipa, that is in south of Peru, or maybe in other parts of Peru. They are like, they are concentrated just in the coast, in Chincha, Ica, no? And there are like a kind of communities. But it's, I don't know, our culinary, as you said, it's very rich, because we got some immigrations during our history. Once, of course, were the Africans. And even in my house, for example, we cook African food. But of course, it's a mix with not the native food. It's a kind of a mix. And yeah, it's normal for us, no? But for sure, in my city, you don't see African Peruvians. I don't know why. Right now, we can see like Venezuelans, because there were a lot of Venezuelans that they came here to Peru to looking a better life, no? And maybe they are the only ones. And of course, the first time when they arrived here to my city, like everybody was like, no, they're different, no? Because the color. Of course, they were part of discrimination too. But the good thing in my city is that usually people, they try to get a good education. Everybody's worried to try to give a good education to their children.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it back to that, because that was his question originally. And maybe Alexandra or Antoinette, if you could address what role you see education playing, or what role that plays in your quest with Wall of Moms International.
You want to go first, Alexandra, and then I'll go after you?
Sure. Well, first of all, we did survey this group and just kind of asked, like, what is it that you want? Because it was obvious just by seeing the post and what had happened previous to us getting there that people had opinions. And so, yes, people still want to organize for protests, so that will still happen. But the thing that people wanted the most was creating anti-racist culture. That's what people wanted the most in our survey. And we also realized that, and I think we might have mentioned this in this call before, we realized that people there was a majority of people who didn't understand the full spectrum of Black Lives Matter. They thought it just meant saving Black like people getting killed by the police. They didn't understand the economy, the full spectrum of Black lives. And so dropping in more education on understanding the full spectrum of Black lives, dropping in history, like our friend Martin was saying, Martin from Peru, he was saying education is really important. You know, here in the United States, this is a white supremacist country. This is how it was built. We don't get the full story. We all got screwed by that. So giving people the history so they can understand why it is the way it is, the full spectrum of voter education. So not just registering and getting people there, but also like why it's important, what's tied into these votes, how it affects that community over there that's always talking about why you need to vote and how it's hurting us and you don't totally understand. So that type of education. And also learning how to interact with the terminology and understanding the terminology, because that is, things like when you hear things like white tears, when you hear things like tone policing, when you hear, all these words that are labels to help us understand what might be happening, but then get weaponized in a way that will shut people down, and they shut people, and then when they get shut down, they walk away, right? So also learning things like that. And as Antoinette will tell you, also, she'll go more into this, connecting people on the international scale, because that's where all of our solutions are, we all have it, you know. So she'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, on the local level, I have a friend of mine who's a teacher, and I've noticed this because, you know, through our ministry with Pato Banton, besides our public appearances that we do of concerts, we do a lot of other service works, and we do a lot of different things in schools. One thing I've noticed, one of my friends who's actually white, who teaches a lot about different people, Malcolm X, Cesar Chavez, Marcus Garvey, who's learned about those people in their school growing up. She teaches it in her school of middle schoolers all year long, not just February, because they call it Black History Month, and then we all get bombarded with everything in February. But it's like Black history is actually American history. Black American history is American history that should be taught throughout the school year. And I want her to be able to share her voice and tell everybody how she was able to do it within her school. Because all the schools need to be able to get this information. We've only learned that we were slaves and then Martin Luther King, and that was it. We didn't hear about anybody else's voices. And so, you know, let's band together. All the teachers who want to come together and help us on this education spectrum, let's do this, because it's hard to teach people, you know, like they say, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but I still believe in the youth. You know, the youth are asking questions. The youth are challenging their parents. If we can get to the youth, then we know that we planted some seeds that's going to make a brighter day for the future. So education in the schools, education with the police departments is something, an action that we're working with as well too, you know, because we want the children to not have to be afraid of the police. Like my daughter was afraid of the police because every interaction that we've had was always a very aggressive interaction with the police. It's very hard. They don't know about community policing. Let's have these discussions. Let's talk about this. Let's do something and move forward. Education on the global level, same thing like in, you know, I just asked Martin, you know, I'm not Peruvian, but even asking him, he doesn't even know the whole history about how that happened too, because he wasn't taught, he wasn't told. So that needs to be done as well too. You know, it's just one person, my friend, we call him Jamie, but in Peruvian, they call him Jaime Leon, Jamie. But he was the one who told me this history about what was happening with the Black Peruvians and this Hito Japanese dude that was the president of the country. And I'm like, why aren't the rest of the people in Peru knowing about this? So they also need to start implementing that within their own education system for their own people to sit there and know about the Black people within Mexico, within Peru, within Brazil, throughout Latin America, and also in the other places that you see them in, as far as in Australia and Tasmania, in America, in Canada, you know, they need to know all of this history. These kids need to know, and just as much as they know anything about their own history, they need to know that's a part of their own history as well too, because those people were there from the beginning.
I love what you just said, that it's a part of our history, right? That the histories aren't separate, right? Especially when you dare to feel into the roles that the African Americans played in what we call American history, right? And just that we've even, that's really powerful right there, Antoinette. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, part of the healing that this world needs to go through, I always hold true, and I've seen it happen. This is the work I do for myself and with people that I work with, and that is, you know, our healing is by your highest healing and really being able to connect with your spirit and be able to manifest what you're here to manifest for the world and also for yourself, comes from really digging into the shadows and understanding your pain. And this is something that when we're talking about ancestry, you know, like I said before, I think I told this group, one of my programs is Black Mentor for white people who are ready. And I'll tell you what, in those sessions that I do with people who want to do this work, the number one thing that comes up, it was one of the number one things that comes up, is being scared to look at ancestry because of the legacy that has been left by many white people in this country, the legacy that's been left to, you know, people who are here now. How do I look into my family if they're slave owners? How do I look at, I know, you know, some people can trace back to people who are actively Nazis. A lot of the conversations I've have are how to coach people in having those conversations with their racist uncles and aunts, right? And so it's interesting that if you think about this concept of we have to really challenge, you know, the pain within us so that we can heal and so that we can be whole and create what we want, that collectively is what's happening right now. Is we're person to person having to have those really uncomfortable conversations. Especially I'm seeing with white people and how they have to deal with their own families, the practice of you know, this internal work. They're able to now apply it, you know, of internal work, of shadow work, and, you know, looking at the poison within, or whatever, you know, whatever it is for them. They're now able to apply that to these really divisive, the really divisive issue of racism. And when you have the layers of family on top of that, and friends and community on top of that, they're able to apply that now to deconstructing, you know, helping other people deconstruct in their in those around race. And also I want to say is that, you know, a lot of us, our job here right now is to break family cycles and family traumas. You know, I'm Creole from the South. I also have slave owners in my ancestry and in my bloodline. That legacy, though my skin is brown, I also have, you know, some energetic legacy of slave owners, and I have to deal with that. And so I think it's really interesting and synchronous that people, while we're doing all of this together, are also thinking about what came before me and what's in my bloodline and what am I connected to. You know, you can't deny your ancestors. That's where you came from, you know. Crickets.
It'd be great to have you on for another whole session, Alexandra, to work through, to give you more space to work through that. I have to get you back. That's powerful work. And like you said, if someone's here and listening to this, they're ready for whatever that next step is for them. And so does anybody have anything to, who's next to share and what's coming up for you? Yeah, hi Shannon, are you wanting to share? No.
Sorry, yeah, my internet's going in and out, guys. Sorry, so it keeps pausing up, but I think in the process for me in learning recently, I think I've realized how with all we're talking about, how convenient not knowing has, and how like I feel like that's a lot of what I find myself pushing up against a lot, you know, is that it works for you know, white people, and it's been convenient not to know, and opening the box and feeling and seeing, and anyway, it's just been an interesting part of the education for me, and then being here tonight, because I don't think I expected the international aspect, but just wanting to reflect again that I think it's incredible that this is, you know, this is the birth of the international aspect of the Wall of Moms International. So thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, you know, if somebody else has a question, please chime in. But if not, oh, there, Linda, great, raised your hand. Linda, come on in.
Well, I was just going to ask, what is it that we can do in this moment that will have the impact that we all want to see? What would you tell us?
I'll say my simple thing, and that is I want people to commit to a lifetime of creating anti-racist culture.
And with that commitment, what is our first step in going forward in that way?
Well, everybody's different, right, Linda? So think in terms of education, accountable actions, and taking care of your positioning in wherever you're taking action and educating yourself, right? So education, learning history, and also understanding Black Lives Matter as far as the full spectrum of the Black experience right now in our world right now. So education, history, and also understanding Black lives right now. Then actions that are accountable. So we said this before, but one of the things that we see a lot is people like, I'm going to the protests, and then I'm going to be an activist, and then like a month later, their work is done, right? They're not. You're right. So I always tell people, start with actions that you can be consistent with. For some people, it really is donating a significant amount a month to an organization you really believe in, and that's your way, then that's your way. For some people, it is locking arms at a protest 60 nights in a row, right? For some people, that's their way. For others, it's starting to get a group together of your community, trusted community members who monthly want to read through books like Me and White Supremacy, or So You Want to Talk About Race, or creating anti-racist culture, right? Maybe it's a book club that the accountability, the action is you know that you're going to change how you interact with racism, anti-racism, and that you're going to take people with you, and you're going to be accountable, and you're going to show up and all do it together. Also voting, of course, voting, right? You can find candidates, and I want to be clear on this for everybody, candidates that have a consistent track record of supporting Black lives, of speaking about Black Lives Matter, not necessarily the organization, I'm just talking about the concept, Black Lives Matter. It's not enough for them just to be Black or to look Black. They have to have a consistent record of supporting Black Lives Matter, educating people in your community about that person, campaigning for that person, making a list and shopping at Black businesses in your areas, and consistently doing it, and then asking your friends to do it too, and promoting those businesses. And as Antoinette will tell you, learning more can also come from making Black friends in a way that doesn't tokenize them, but like you really do want to make Black friends. Maybe go to a Black community and find out what's going on there, immerse yourself so you can understand. Does that help? Does that answer
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm just going to reiterate again in my own words. I know people love Pato and myself, but don't let us be the only Black friends that you have. Go and get some more Black friends. Go and meet some Black people, become friends with them that they love you so much, because Black people are very loving, that they invite you to the barbecue.
I love
memes,
that.
and I know people don't, and it's like, I got a barbecue. That means they have become, passed into the ally, into the accomplice. It's like, they're welcome into our family. You get to take home some ribs. You get to come with us and be with our family. You're welcome into our own home. So make some more Black friends. Number one, if you're in a workplace and you see that there's a lack of diversity with Black people, it's not like Black people are not qualified. Ask them about their hiring procedure, because their grades are there. The education is there. The only thing that was there that kind of probably were turned down was because of their name. Tyrone, LaQuisha, Shaquinte, whatever the names were, and it kind of got sidetracked. And they only use affirmative action to sit there and prove like, okay, we were being fair because we allowed one Black person to come into the company. But the fact of the matter is that in Silicon Valley, most of the people who had the highest grades, who graduated from tech schools in that industry, were Black and Latino. So if we actually hired based on the people who graduated with the highest honors, it would be Black and majority in Silicon Valley. But it's actually the minority, you know. So ask in your workplace, you know, what's going on? Let's offer internships. Let's move people up. Let's elevate, you know, the Black people within our community. Let's open the doors to more hiring of Black people within their communities, inside of your own communities where you actually work at, you know, that you see more Black representation, you know, because it's not like we haven't earned it, or we aren't capable, or we aren't responsible, or we're not intelligent, or we don't have the degrees. We have them, but we're being suppressed. And we're being suppressed because people aren't speaking up with us. We've been saying it all the time, but nobody's been standing there with us and saying, listen, this really isn't right. You know, I worked in corporate New York City, hundreds of people where it's going, you know, even over by Wall Street, hundreds of people on hundreds of floors. The Black men with degrees who have all the experience and learning are down in the basement. That's where they put them, in the basement, to deliver mail to everybody else. You know, everybody else got their jobs based on their friendship. So use that friendship and use that privilege and extend it to us, so that way we can get equal opportunity as well. Don't give us something we don't deserve. Give us something that we actually work for, and put us on the equal level playing field of equity, not just equality, but equity. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we went there. This was some of the stuff you guys were saying on the show earlier that I wanted to make sure we got is what are those baby steps, if you will? What are those entry level next steps? And what are you hoping that the Wall of Moms International can do? I know you're just putting it together, but tell us about some of the early visioning of what you're hoping for, or let us help you dream it up.
All right, this is where we're going to ask for your help. Alexandra, if you don't mind, do you mind giving them some of the ideas that we have in our mission statement?
Yeah, just give me 1 second here. I'll just read you some points off of our, so peaceful protesting, right? This is part of, you know, this is at the seed of Wall of Moms International. So protests that, I think, you know, protests that matter, that can, you know, bring attention to what it is that they're there for. We also are looking to support, when we can, Indigenous, other people of color, other groups that it makes sense for us to lock arms with, but always Black Lives First. That is what we're here for. We've already started sort of hooking up with some nonprofits that are good matches for us in that way. Like we talked about before, voter education and voter rights, because we're all I'm learning so much more. I thought I knew stuff, but you know, all of us are, this is the cool thing about our leadership team, all of us are forever students. We're forever learners. So as I'm researching and finding out more about Portland, and I live here, but I'm not born and raised, and that's an important distinction. I'm finding out a lot about the education around voting that I just didn't even know I didn't know, right? Doing ground and virtual events, that way we can get people's voices out there. So for example, one of the things going on in Portland right now is, during some of the defunding of the police and the changing of budgets of police, is that one of the departments they took out was the gang squad, the gang violence squad. And so there's not really anybody policing some of the gangs in North Portland. And so my friend, who works really closely with them, his nonprofit is almost right off the ground any day now, I think. His nonprofit is all about taking those guys off the street and then giving them something to actually do, because he said you can't take them off the street unless they're getting paid to do something else. They have to be able to feed their families, and they have to be able to, to have a sense of purpose. And the problem is that one, a lot of people aren't amenable to bringing in a gang member, and when they do, they don't want to pay them, or they don't have the money to pay them. And so his nonprofit takes those people off the streets and pays them while they get the education, the experience that they need. So when we're talking about, ground and virtual events, it's not just protesting, it's also being able to interview people and saying, look, this is what this person does. It's happening in your town. If you're from Portland, or if you're in Tulsa, or, because there's Wild Moms groups everywhere, right? Wherever you are, this is something that you can do. And we're going to just hand it to you, and hopefully you'll come and see if you connect. So that's just one example of the virtual events that we could be doing. Introducing more Black leadership on local and national levels. And so we've talked a little bit about that. We're still growing our team. Antoinette and I have been doing our work, but we got to Wild Moms and did this turnaround in 12 days. So we're still building. In some ways, we're rebuilding from almost the ground up again. Also understanding Black mental health. So this is part of understanding it's a very important part, understanding the full spectrum of Black lives. The generational trauma, what it means to be part of a group that doesn't have really, people are finding it now, but doesn't really have a country of origin, really. Doesn't have there's not an African country that's speaking up and saying, these are our children and we take care of them. And we are ostracized in this place. So that, among many other things, it's important to understand how we can support that in our systems. Supporting Black economic growth. We've talked about that a little bit in this group, and educating, like I said, on the full spectrum of Black history. So we talked about that in that group, in this group as well. So you can see we have our work cut out for us. We have a lot of things we want to do, and a lot of these things are things that we bring to the table as a leadership group that we know is important. And also because we asked in this group, we asked from almost the very beginning, what is it that you all want? What's important? We're connected in with other Black leadership. We're connected in with what's happening in different places in the world when it comes to Black lives, and we're seeing what is important. So these points of where we're going, what we're going to do, are reflective of us putting all of that together. You dig? Yeah. Jamin is active.
Basically, in a nutshell, but yeah, very well explained. Very well explained, because I want to make this clear too. Every person that I vet and bring onto our team of Black leadership, you haven't met the other women involved in this. You haven't met the other men involved in this. You haven't met the other races that are involved in this. We're growing. And as we continue forward, I don't want to make the mistake of going forward that I'm the spokesperson for Walla Moms International, because it's not about me. It's not about Alexandra. It's not about anybody else. But everybody who's on our team, they should be able to speak and say the exact same things that we're all in agreement in saying as a team. We don't like the focus of it's all about that one person, because it's not. It's just all of us collectively agree how we want to move forward, going internationally and globally, nationally and locally, to cover all bases. And it's not just my own ideas or her own ideas. The survey was to listen to the people in the group of where they wanted to go, what they wanted from this. And we're here to sit and provide that service. And so for all the people who are tuning in internationally, like Martin and everything, stay in touch with me. I will get you going. If you have to start the Walla Moms WAMI in Peru, be WAMI Peru. We will help you and we'll get you going and get all that going and started, because I got friends in Peru and they will support you and they'll help you, because they believe in the same philosophies and the same teachings as well too. We have to do something. I can leave this earth today, but as long as I'm still here, my mission is God's mission, which is God's will, to support and further equality and justice for all people. And right now, Black Lives Matter right now, so Let's work on that. And I think that's really going to set the catalyst for everybody else on the planet, because they'll sit there and see that we are not tolerant of racism anymore. Everyone, it's not black against white, it's not black against this, it's everyone is against systematic racism. And when we get everybody on board with that, systemic racism, that's the word, when we get everybody on board, we can really make things happen and we can make things change. And I might be able to die and see a little bit of some progress. That would be wonderful.
Oh, somebody's asking, Felicity Artemis, that's my friend. How do we find out where the Black businesses are? I would like to pose this question to everyone in the group. How can you find out where the Black businesses are? You can guess and be wrong. It's okay if you're wrong. No one's going to attack you.
No, make that post. Make that post, because what we have Black Riverside County down here in California. They're like, here's a list. List all the Black-owned businesses that we can support. And everybody just chime in and we'll make the document. We'll make the document, we'll put it aside on the file, on the website, on the page, and also within the group. These are people that we can support, Black-owned independent entrepreneurship business. Did you see that one about the Black vegan restaurant in Georgia? It was the most amazing video. It was a Black vegan restaurant in Georgia, and some racist or somebody tried to put some things on Yelp, and give them a 1-star and try to, ban them, and, just the fight that we have to deal with all the time. So the community came together to go to this Black vegan restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. I watched the video. They're like, who's all up in the house? There's a line up down the street. He's like, who's up in the house? And they're all like, who's up in the house? He goes, oh, around the corner. Who's up in the house? Oh, around the corner. Who's up in the house? Oh my God, this is really long. Who's up in the house? It was so many blocks long that people brought out their chairs, like when you're going to the jazz festival, it's like you bring your own chair and your drinks, because you're gonna sit down because you're gonna be in this line for hours for the day. Like the people who are standing there for 8 hours to vote on poll. These people were standing in line for hours to support this Black business. Vegan food. And you know how Black people are. It's hard. I'm not a vegan. It's really hard. I want some chicken wings, but if it's done right, I will totally support it. If you can season up that tofu and them other things like that, then I'm down with that. But that line was so long. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people supporting this business. So we can do that.
Yeah. Anybody else who wants to take a stab at it, who maybe has never thought about it before, but anybody else want to take a stab at how you can do that? Don't worry, I won't check up on you or make you accountable. I'm interested. I will. You can make a mistake here, and I'm not going to hurt you. I promise.
It's okay.
Are you asking about how to put a list together for Black-owned businesses? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking in the call if anybody wants to take a stab at how can they find the Black-owned businesses. Somebody who's never thought about that before.
Google.
I'm not asking you, Liz. You work with us.
Google. I was going to say Google.
Google. No, because I did it. I Googled it because I was curious. And it's true. There are lists out there for your city.
It's true. There's lists in almost every city. But there's some people who are in rural areas.
That's true. So Etsy seems like a really good place because you can see who it is, what country, right? That would be that's a fun one to find.
Hashtag Black-owned business.
Right. I like that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But we should provide a list as well too. We want to be a resource.
Yeah, we can do that we can do that. We can do it by city and everything. Yes.
I was just feeling within that question, it's like wanting to feel like even in my own community that I would know that. Right? That I would be able to rattle off. I mean, even in my town, we don't have a lot of African Americans. I'm in just south of Santa Cruz in a little bit more rural, Santa Cruz, California, rural agricultural area. But it's like, okay, well, I know my one buddy's runs the carpet cleaning thing, so for sure, you know, I can go there. But then my brain went, what do I even know? Well, how come I don't know that? How come that doesn't come to mind, right? And
Peter, I didn't know about doing that more
Peter.
until like 4 years ago. I'm 37. I didn't understand that. Now I've lived in places that are mostly white since I've been in the United States for a while now. And I came to Portland and I've been here for about eight years. And 4 years in, you know, one of my sisters was like, you should shop at more Black-owned businesses. And it was like, like this paradigm shift. And I was like, the only place I know that is a Black-owned business, I know there are Black-owned businesses here, but just off the top of my head, I was like, oh yeah, I can go to blah, blah, blah. I thought I was going to be able to just say, okay, I'll go to these places. The only place that I knew of was this Ethiopian place, which is the best Ethiopian I've ever had in my life, called Bete Lucas here in Portland. And I was like, I can't believe that's the only one that I absolutely know of. And so this is something that, you know, we all can learn together.
Peter, I had no idea you're really right up the road from us.
Yeah, you two are close.
no, you're down in Lake Elsinore, right? I mean,
going up to Santa Cruz, running the one, and going all the way up to Oregon and Northern California. Huh? Peter,
yeah,
trust me,
yes.
we're up in your area all the time. And I can't remember the name of the spot, but there's a big reggae festival that they hold up in that area. And this guy has a black Jamaican restaurant that's amazing. And he puts on this big reggae festival. It's south of Paradise. It's south of Paradise, but it's north of Santa Cruz. But I know that area because we're talking about like off the 5, you know, Stanton and those other, you know, Bakersfield and, you know, my favorite truck stop, which is Santanella, that I always eat at.
Yeah, I'm just 1 hour from Santanella. I can meet you at the Santanella truck stop. There we go.
You have to, because that's where I eat all the time. So that's my stopping point and everything. So yeah, we can organize something up in your area too. I'd be happy to help.
Awesome. All right. Who else has questions or feelings? And I didn't really check in with you guys about how much time you had, Antoinette or Alexandra, and if you're in the space to want to be wrapping this up in the next few minutes, and or if you just want to roll with it.
I can roll for a little bit longer. I'm going to start taking off jewelry, but
Peter, I'm in it to win it.
Antoinette will be here with you till 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm in it to win it, to answer every single question. On our second protest, we said everybody gets a chance to speak. This thing will not be over until everybody had the last voice to speak. And we stayed there the entire day until everybody had the last chance to speak. And when we finally did, and we were in the prayer, we had this little white boy. He was 6 years old. His parents brought him to the protest. And when he was praying, he said, all lives matter. All lives matter. Won't matter until Black lives matter. His prayer and his speech was the most beautifulest thing. If anybody ever wants it, I have the entire 4 or 5 hour protesting, but it's all speeches. We said, we just turning the mic over to the kids. You know, we're just not going to just yell up and down the street, Black lives matter. Like, you know, we did that for a few minutes, but the rest of the time, hear the voices from your community. Hear the voices from the youth. Hear the voices from the people. Listen to what they're saying, you know. So I'm here. I'm in it to the end. I'm in it to win it. Every last question is answered until you're fully satisfied, and then I'll leave.
Thank you. Thank you for that dedication. Anybody who hasn't shared yet, who's listening and waiting for their moment to step in, you know, you can step in with your voice or in the chat box. Claire?
Hi, good evening. Let's see. I'm probably the oldest one here in the group right now, probably. I'm going to be 70 next week. And I want to share this, but I kind of like, I don't want to be like, I'm just proud. I don't want to say like I'm boasting or anything, but when I was little, I lived in Memphis, Tennessee. And then my older sister was in the civil rights movement in the 60s when they they got arrested, and she was in the original SNCC. And she was a friend of John Lewis, and you know, so it's like been a lifelong. It's been a lifelong exposure and love affair with this whole matter. And then I was a reggae. You know, I went to many reggae festivals and love reggae music, and married a Jamaican man and have mixed kids and mixed grandkids. And I'm just so happy to see this evolving like the way it is. And my daughter corrects me often, and I really appreciate it when she does, you know, when she brings to light my unconscious racism. And I just am really glad that this is a topic of conversation here in the conversation. And I'm just like goosebumps. It just makes me really happy to be, you know, witnessing this avalanche of care and love. And so that's my chime in.
Thank you. And I want to thank you
Yeah.
for marrying a Jamaican man.
Yeah.
Because I'm married to a Jamaican man too. And we're all about one love. You know,
yeah. He's got 4 other daughters with 4 other women, and we kind of all get along. You know, we kind of set. I like to think that I kind of set the tone for. Come on, guys. You know, we all loved each other at one time, and the kids, and we brought them up together, and it's a beautiful thing. And it wasn't. I must say, in defense of Chester, he's a wonderful man. He's very sweet and gentle. And we all left him. He went after the wild women, and he's just sort of like a gentle, intelligent, laid-back guy. So it wasn't that he was the womanizer. It sounds like it, and if, you know, you're like, what? But he was just, you know, I don't know. Life is long, and you go from one thing to the next. And we're still good friends, and we get together. Just last weekend, he and his wife were at my house, and you know, it's just, it can be very beautiful, and it has been, and I'm just really grateful that I've gotten to live this life of, you know, sharing and caring and love. And so I get it, and I just really appreciate you guys coming on and being so open and willing, and, you know, asking for the deep questions. And I just want to thank you for that. It's great. One of the baby mothers actually lives in Portland too. She's got beautiful kids up there in Portland. She said she lives 2 blocks away from the nightly protest, and she said it was really wild.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
she lives in my neighborhood then, because it's right down there. It's like 7 blocks from me.
Yeah, Reba's kind of, I don't know, Reba would have been famous in her day, but we're all older now, you know. She's got a bunch of kids there. We all have a bunch of kids, and it's a really beautiful thing. Yeah. And I live in Oakland, so I had seen, you know, something go by on my email, like Black-owned businesses in Oakland. So I'm going to look for that and see if I can get it to you, you know, because it's already been compiled.
Great. Thank you, Claire. Thanks for sharing more of your story and your passions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for being there. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Jamin, are you wanting to go next, sir?
We got an Oakland posse is up there as well too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, everyone. Alexandra, Antoinette, for being here, and Liz. And I would love to invite you all. First of all, I welcome home. This community that we have here, The Conversation, is I think are just a wonderful place for this conversation, for these conversations, likewise for all conversations that matter. And so I would like to invite you to consider having, being regular guests, either having a program, just coming to hang out, but really just make this your home. And our vision is not just a network of conversations, but a network of networks, bringing together all communities, all peoples, to simultaneously and holistically work on all of our most urgent problems. One of the biggest ones we're working on is ending hunger. I just flashed on my image there, the community cafe, which we pioneered back in 2015, feeding everyone, feeding all communities, making food a basic human right as part of the larger vision of making basic human needs basic human rights, but starting with food. And food is a great way to unify all communities. So we're now taking the community cafe project on wheels and basically delivering the food to people because of the pandemic. So I'd love to invite you to participate to work with us on that. And if we can deliver food to Portland, I'm up here in the state of Washington, up on Whidbey Island, north of Seattle. And one of the things we're working on is ending hunger here on the island, and then in Western Washington. We'd love to take it down to Portland and feed Portland, right? What a great way to bring all people together to feed everyone. So anyway, okay, sorry, go ahead. I kicked off the block party this morning at 7 a.m. So I've been hosting for over 16 hours. So I'm going to need to crash out pretty soon, but I'll be listening in for a few more minutes. And just really want to welcome you to, and Shannon, all of you, please welcome home. Welcome to the block party on Fridays specifically, and the conversation generally. And if there's anything we can do to help you schedule some time, if you want to explore some topics or some time slots, etc., would love to work with you. We got a great community here, and would love for you to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Maybe you can make sure to team up Alexandra with Jackie of the Vegans of Color, which is a show we've been doing. Tell a little bit about that show. So,
yeah. So Jackie and Melvin came, who've been longtime friends and colleagues through Vegan World 2026, came with the idea of doing a regular program called Vegans of Color in a world of normalized violence. And it's just been an amazing program. And that runs for 2 hours from 5 to 7 p.m. And then Jackie also, with two other gals, including my partner, Melissa, put together a program called The Divine Feminine, which runs in the mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. And so we get very creative with our programming, right? For years now, I've wanted to do a program called Black and White, where we bring together Black people, white people, and let's just put it all on the table and what do we need to talk about? Let's tell each other our stories. What was it like growing up white? What was it like growing up Black? Claire, you're from the East Bay. I grew up in the East Bay, which for me is one of the most racially diverse places on earth. Growing up as a kid, my best friend was Black, and we thought nothing of it. I grew up in Albany, north of Berkeley, north of Oakland.
Yeah.
And so, we all come from different backgrounds. So some come from communities that were 100% Black, others that were 100% white, others that were mixed. Let's get together and tell our stories and do it openly and broadcast, record. Anyway, we're totally open to, experimenting with different kinds of programs and conversations, to get to the root of it, to get to the heart of it, of all of our problems, and ultimately discover that we are all one, right? Get to that place. Love to hear your thoughts.
Jamin, I want to address you because I really love what you're saying. And that's something that a woman who really introduced me to the daughter of divine, the feminine divine, she's the one who opened up this to me. And she's been saying the long thing, what will save this planet is planting gardens. we got to grow food. We got to plant gardens. We got to do whatever. I started in my own area. And then with our own indenture that Pato and I have, it's like with our spiritual ministry and everything that we're doing, we want to make sure that we get some acres that we're growing food. You know, a friend of mine has hundreds of acres, but within 2 acres that he's growing, he can feed an entire city within 2 acres. This is also the concept that we're trying to do within Africa instead of importing plastic rice from China, is that you can grow your own food. We can grow our own food. We can do a lot of different things by growing food and feeding. The world does not have to go hungry. You know, people don't understand that farmers are throwing away food because of capitalism. All these different things that's going on, but within your own front yard, you can grow 10,000 pounds of food in your own front lawn, in your own backyard. When I grow the food and I don't know anything, I just asked on Facebook, I'm like, well, and somebody told me, let me come over and show you. You got to get that stinky soil, that organic stuff, and you want to grow organic. That was the most tastiest food that you've ever had when you grow your own food. All the schools, as far as education, when you're teaching them gardening, there's a lot of schools that are like, we have our garden, we grew our own cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce, and kids who don't like to eat vegetables, but when they grow it themselves, they love it. There's so much pride in that. So please get in touch with us, because I really want to encourage that as well too. Even if you live in an apartment, which we used to do, there are co-ops. You know, there's a co-op like in LA or New York City where you can just volunteer your time and help grow food, and then you get to take home the food free home. There's urban farms that helps Black youth, you know, who are endangered Black youth, that can grow food and feed their families and also get paid for working on this farm. There's things that we can do. This can help us. This can help the world. Let's grow, let's feed, and the Divine Mother. And before you leave, I'm just gonna drop you this link here of my, called I Am Mother Spirit. And so with all your Divine Mother feminist groups and everything, please share this video, because this is, I worked hard on this. I wrote this piece and stuff, so I'm gonna give it to you guys. This link, all right. All right. Okay, I'm gonna drop it right here in the chat. So copy the link, save it, share it, spread it. It's very inclusive. You know, I'm honoring all the divine feminine from around the world, you know.
That's great. Antoinette, please be sure to put the links for your other song and Pato's song, the two that you played on Scott's show.
Okay, where do you want me to put it? Oh, in here.
Yeah, put it here in the.
Oh yes,
yeah.
sure. No problem. No problem.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Antoinette. I put my contact information there in the chat as well. Love to follow up. So glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is exciting. I'm like, you're going to help us grow. We're going to grow.
Oh,
yeah, grow. Literally and figuratively, huh? Yeah, Jamin is the brainstorming mind behind the conversation, as he's been doing these 24-hour block parties for 4 or 5 months now, and was really you know, a combination of the good of the whole and all the work that they were doing, and then World Unity Week showing that we could just keep doing Zoom calls, and Jamin and I just put our heads together and said, why don't we just keep doing Zoom calls then? Why don't we just keep one going 24/7? And that's our quest, and we're already halfway there. We just decided to start halfway there, noon to midnight every day, Pacific time. There's folks on this line and opening up conversations that matter. And sometimes we go into breakout rooms, like right now, there might even be, hey, who wants to keep talking about this? Or maybe somebody else wants to talk about something different. And so sometimes we go into breakout rooms, and sometimes we hang out in groups of 10 or 20 or 50, or we've had as much as 200 people on the call at one time to just dare to be together and talk and create new friendships and rekindle old friendships. And it's really been beautiful, and it's great to have you guys joining us here.
I love Julie from The Good of the Whole. I mean, the first interview we did after George Floyd protest was on her show. And we were just like, I don't know how we're going to talk about this. I mean, you want us to come bring some peace and love, but I think we need to bring some truth and honesty, you know.
Yeah.
She was so amazing. I mean, she's such an awesome person. You know, all the people from World Unity Week and everyone else and stuff. It's just like, and I brought in Alexandra because I wanted her to be like, y'all, if y'all gonna do this World Unity Week, you have to include the African diaspora. You have to include the Black voices. The time is now. So hopefully moving forward, I want any of you guys who are doing anything spiritual, whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be Alexandra, it doesn't have to be Wami. Just, you know, I'll send you people or whatever, but please include Black voices in everything that you're doing, you know, in everything that you're doing. And that thanks to Scott, you know, for bringing us on, because I challenged him. I said, as long as we're being straight and this is straight talk, you need to have at least a Black person on your show, at least once a month, not once a year.
And I want to encourage you guys, because I'm in charge of scheduling. If you would like to bring a voice to the conversation here, just get a hold of me. I will put my email in the chat, and I will be happy to schedule you anytime you would like to come and speak with us.
Thank you, Deidre. Thank you so much. I will say that. I'm going to put all this in documents. If Liz is still around, that's her job to copy all of this for me. That's her. I just copy, screenshot, or whatever, and just put it into a folder where I can find it and I can remember it.
Okay.
And then remind me, you need to get in touch with Deidre, get in touch with Jamin, get in touch with Peter.
And I like the line you just said, might be another good hashtag too, include Black voices, I think was the way you said it. That'd be another beautiful hashtag to just have in there planted.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be my voice. Not everybody agrees with me. I'm looking at already, and people already dissing me already about my peaceful nonviolence protest stance. They're telling me I'm dishonoring MLK, but you know, I'll get into that. I'll explain it so people can understand. You don't have to agree with me. It's okay. You know, we're not a monolith. We have a lot of different ways of protesting. I'm not going to tell people how to protest. You know, what happened with the violence and destruction after George Floyd or anywhere else, it made them start an investigation. It made them start an investigation. That was important because they would have ignored it and it would continue. But also at the same time, I was there for Black Sunday when when Congressman Cori Bush was speaking, that she was in the streets and she had to take it into government. In order for her to seek justice, she had to be in a place of government. You can't be in two places at once, but we can be in all places all together and allow everybody to process, grieve, protest in the way that they want to do it. I'm not going to tell anybody how to protest. I can only speak for myself and with my team on how we're going to protest, you know, and how we're going to move forward. But I know what MLK didn't do, and even the NPAC, the NFAC, the Not Effing Around Coalition, did it as well too. And his statement at the end of the day, even though there was 3,000 armed Black men and women down there in Louisville, Kentucky, the last thing he said, and I hope people remember this, the best thing you could do to get justice for Breonna Taylor is to vote your mayor out. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't attack anybody. They didn't riot, they didn't loot, but they did open carry because they said they will self-defend themselves. They will protect themselves, and they will hurt anybody who tries to hurt their people. But they did not antagonize. They were not the aggressive. They were only on the defensive side, same thing like the Black Panthers. But at the end of the day, he said, the best thing you could do is to vote your mayor out. The reason why there's no investigation and why no cops are not being charged for Breonna Taylor is because of the mayor. That's something that you can do.
Yeah. Marco, I know you had your hand up, buddy.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant, but also I feel, you know, this touches on education and how insidious racism can be, that you can practice it and not even know it. I grew up in a farming community 45 miles north of Detroit. And my dad worked, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Michigan in that area, my dad worked at in Pontiac in a factory that was, you know, like I think he might have been one of the very few white people that worked there. Now, as I was growing up, you know, I had no concept of this, you know, but I know that when we played games at school, now this is in grades, this is in low grade school right up to middle school, we threw the N-word around all the time, called each other that. We had no black people in our community. And it wasn't until I was somewhere between 13 and 14 years old that I discovered that that word was about black people. I had no clue. You know, it was just, and it just floored me. It's like, how could people, you know, be so nasty? And how could I have done it for so long and not even known what I was doing? It was just crazy. And so that speaks to education and the insidiousness of not knowing. And then I have a more serious thing. Now, my dad, we used to throw a big a barbecue every year on our farm down by our pond. And, you know, we'd have the whole pig on the spit. And my dad invited, you know, all his friends from work, and his friends from work would had an open invitation. They would come out and fish in our pond even when we weren't there. And one year, when I was about 6 or 7, I remember the incident, but I wasn't told about it until years later exactly what it was all about. We were cleaning up after the barbecue, and you know, my mom had us in the little VW microbus, and she was driving around, you know, the fence row around the pond to, you know, catch things that had blown from the wind to clean up the area. And the neighbor started shooting at us. And, you know, as kids in there, we didn't know what was going on. She just, you know, raced away, and we were told about it later. And after she pulled far away, my dad went over there to, you know, saying this guy climbed across our fence. He said, I don't ever want to see any blank ends in my backyard ever again. Of course, this coward waited until everybody was gone. But yeah, I hope this helps somehow, you know, give an understanding of, you know, education is important. You can't correct a wrong if you don't understand it.
Truth. You have to get to the truth first before we get to beauty and goodness. Mm-hmm. And education will lead us to the truth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and please come back anytime. We're often here till the wee hours, just to hang out if nothing else.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I actually do have to go.
Okay, I just wanted to share, you know, an interesting story because, you know, my mom.
Goodbye, Alexandra. Thank you for joining us. Beautiful to have you. Keep up the great work.
One of my mom's friends that was black, and this was the 70s, and only my younger sister and her had a daughter left at home. So they decided to move in together. So, you know, I understand the experience about what you guys were talking about, you know, having new friends and being invited to the barbecue, because, you know, being exposed, especially in the 70s, to racism was like, wow, we were never raised to be racist, you know. And one example I've shared with them before was that a plumber came over to the house, and my mom's friend he looked at my mom and was looking at Hattie. And Hattie, being kind of the smart person that she was, a little smart ass, she told the plumber, yeah, her mom was black and her dad was white. He walked out the door. And so there is this element of, even when you learn that there is no difference between anybody, that there are people in the world that don't realize that there is absolutely no difference difference in DNA. There is nothing in any person of color that separates us in our DNA.
Silly humans we turned out to be, huh?
I know, but the thing is, and I'll be honest with you guys, I hear this all the time. People weren't raised racist. That's fine, because you didn't treat a person, you didn't call them the N-word, and you didn't do anything racist to them. But there was many good white people who just stood by while racism existed throughout our society. You know, if you look at World War II, you know, with the Nazis, not everybody was a Nazi. Not everybody supported those ideas, but there was a lot of, and they weren't up against Jews, but they allowed the Jews to be taken. They allowed to have them removed from their homes. They allowed them, all these different things that were happening. They didn't say anything, and they didn't do anything. And so the same thing is happening again. So people are starting to wake up now, but it's like, so they weren't raised racist, but they took part in a racist culture and a racist system.
Well, that didn't occur in my family, because my family were protesting in the streets in Alaska and in Minneapolis and saying this is not okay. And they would not stop in Minneapolis. I, even from Alaska, contacted the Attorney General in the state of Minneapolis, because I have political contacts. And I made sure that those police officers got prosecuted. And my family, who never spoke up politically, my cousins and my aunts and uncles, stood up and said, this is not okay, and we will not allow this to continue any longer.
I understand that, and let me be clear too, because I didn't make this about you, Deandra, and what you and your family has done. I'm just making this as a statement to a lot of white people out there. This is not personal. And this is not about individuals. It's not about individuals. And then we hear this a lot, because I find like the discussion when I'm dealing with white people, whether they're conservative or liberal, it's harder with the liberals, because they always want to remind us of what they've done. You know, and Dr. Quinlan, who has already left because she's already in bed, but you should have her on her show. She's like, they come with the receipts thing. This is what I've done. I've done this. We've marched. We've protested. We did this. Like, the receipts of all the things that they've done. It's not about what you've done. It's not about what anybody's done. We're just saying, as a culture, it's being general. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anybody personally about what you or haven't done. I'm just saying, in general, this is what culture and society has done in general, that they all have not stepped up to the plate. I'm not laying blame on any person or what they're.
I understand.
Done. Yeah, I just want to
come down to us raising our children and changing the culture. My son, I lived in an apartment building where there were kids that were all kinds of different, you know, ethnicities, and there was a little boy from Ecuador, and I'm like, hey, go learn Spanish. And it comes down to us changing our culture and actually saying that everyone is the same. We have to accept everyone the same. They have gifts they bring to the table. They're beautiful as everyone else. And we can learn from everyone.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But telling me is kind of like preaching to the choir, you know, because I agree with you already. This is the message that you need to take to all of your white friends and family, that they need to hear. You know, I like, this is my personal feelings. Like, what can white people do? I need all white people to go to all their friends and family and tell them that we are all God's children, that we need to step up, that we need to show up, we need to be accomplices, we need to be doing this together, you know, because we already know what we need to do. We just need our allies and we need our allies to become accomplices. We know you're our allies. Everybody in this group, in this room tonight, are allies. We need everybody who are allies here to take it to the streets within their own families and their own communities and become accomplices with us, you know. And I say this only with love, because like I said, I'm not being personal. I just think as general, like what.
I know, and even with COVID-19, I live in Alaska, by the way. So even with COVID-19, I found it fascinating, because I work for an attorney besides, right? And he's 70. He showed up in the streets protesting for Black Lives Matter. He wore a mask, went out there, and he went to the streets with everyone else. And I do say this to my family members, and I do say it to friends, and my son could bring home anybody, and he knew that. I mean, my house was the gathering place of all the kids, and if they needed a timeout from their parents understood it. They're okay. They're going to go spend a day or two over there. It doesn't matter, who your parents are. So.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. So I know Jimena needs to go to bed after a long night. Jimena, thank you for being here with us and being our Mexico City representative.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell Antoine and her team that I will educate myself to know how to talk to you also, because I really understood what you were trying to say. So I will educate myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And I will see you in Mexico City next time we come down there, because we did do a show in Mexico City and then also on the other parts of Mexico. And that is really our familia, that's our people. And we'll do everything to support you in any way that we possibly can and stuff, People keep saying, let's move to Mexico. There's so much love given to us. But I'm like, I'm not ready to give up on America yet. But I know that we're welcome in Mexico and Mexico, especially
only one world, right?
It's beautiful.
World.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, Jimena.
Thank you.
And Antoinette, I think I'd like you to do some kind of closing statement, and we'll end the recording, which doesn't have to end the conversation, but let's just do a wrap on the recording here and give us a closing something. Yeah.
How would you like a closing song, and then you can meditate on what I'm actually thinking or saying?
Well, let's see. We're taking a show of hands. Okay.
All right. Let me give you some music, because sometimes everything has already been said, but sometimes there's a lot to be said within the music itself.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let me bring this volume down, because I didn't realize what I was doing here. All right. All right. Can you hear me okay? Just wave, give me a wave. Okay, that's what it is. Just some little technical things. It's a little technical stuff that I'm trying to figure out. Pato's better at this than I am.
That's right. Makes us feel like we're part of the roadies here, and we're helping with the.
In fact, let me just take that off, because that's. Oh, I know what it is. All right. There you go. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you
my
so
final
much.
statement.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect final statement.
Thank you. And like I said, you guys are welcome back anytime. Just get a hold of me. I'll be happy to put you in the schedule. And we have a way to notify everybody that of which people will be here on the conversation.
Thank you so much, Deandra. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Cayman. Thank you, Jimin. Thank you, Peru. Thank you, Liz, for staying up with me. My ride or die.
Yeah. Really nice. Really nice to have you all. And we'll be wrapping up the recording. And those who want to stay into the night will stay into the night. But everyone, gracefully, you're free to go to your next beautiful expressions of who you are. Thank you so much. Share the good word. We'll get this recording to you, Antoinette, so that you can share it or cut it up as you see fit for any use you might have for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Nice to be one with you.
Lovely to be one with you. Thank you.